I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but there was a time when I dreaded going to work. Back when I was a middle school math teacher, the kids were great and I genuinely enjoyed teaching, but my days started to blur together into this one long, exhausting routine. I wake up tired, unmotivated, and the last thing I wanted to do was to get dressed and drive to work. Before I knew it, I'd become that person who lived for Fridays and dreaded Mondays. I get the Sunday blues every week, already counting down the days until the weekend. One day while venting to a friend about how much I wish I could just skip the week and go straight to the weekend, he stopped me and said, "Do you realize that you're wishing away 70% of your life right now?" And that hit me pretty hard. He was right, because I wasn't living my life. I was just wishing big chunks of it away. Of course, quitting my job wasn't an option at the time, but I knew something had to change. So I had a serious look at my 9 to 5 and took steps that completely changed how I felt about it. In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what I did, as well as what my friends and family members also did, so you too can start looking forward to your Mondays, or at least some of them. So let's just rewind for a second. What is the rat race and why do we all hate it so much? I feel like it's almost become kind of this trendy thing to say that you hate your job, because if someone says, "I'm actually looking forward to work this week," people are just going to look at them and think they're crazy. But most of the time, it's not really the job that you hate, it's just one or two parts of it that are making the whole thing feel miserable. So you can kind of think of it as, I don't know, like coffee. You generally enjoy coffee, but if you're always rushing in the morning, you never get a chance to drink it while it's hot. Day after day, you're left with a lukewarm cup, and over time, you start to associate coffee with that disappointment. But you see, the coffee itself isn't really the problem. It's the way you're experiencing it. And yeah, I feel like work can be the same, and the job itself might be fine, but a long commute, a poor manager, or an inflexible schedule can turn the whole thing sour. So what you need to ask yourself is this: what exactly is it about my 9 to 5 that I hate? So for me, one of the first thing I noticed was that my entire identity was tied to my job. When someone would ask me at, I don't know, like a party or something, they would say, "Tell me about yourself." And I'd always start with, I'm a middle school math teacher, and then I go on about my students and my day-to-day routine. And that was it. I felt like that was my entire identity. The danger with this is that when I had a bad day at work, it didn't just feel like a bad day at work. It felt like my entire life was falling apart. I remember one time I had a family emergency because my mom got injured, and I ended up being a little bit late to class. But instead of cutting myself a little slack, I felt like I failed my students for not getting there on time. I was pretty embarrassed when I got to school, and I don't know, I just wanted to fast forward to the weekend. But once I realized my identity had become too wrapped up in my 9 to 5, I started finding other ways to measure my value. For example, the day I was late for class happened because I care about my mom and chose to be there for her, and that's a good thing too. I realized that, hey, I'm not just a math teacher. I'm also a son who wants to care for his parents, a boyfriend who wants to support his partner, an entrepreneur building a business, and yeah, even a foodie who will drive across town just to try a new noodle spot. And I believe that you're not just one thing either. So if your self-worth is tied up in your job title, start building your identity in other areas like hobbies, relationships, and personal goals that have nothing to do with the office. For me, of course, it's working out in my gym and going on these little adventures with Daisy and our dogs. I believe that this is going to help you bounce back from these bad days faster, and you'll feel more in control of your life. Another big reason people hate the rat race is the hours. For a lot of jobs, you're locked into a strict 9 to 5, and that schedule might not work for how you want to live your life. So there's this friend of mine who works as an investment banker, and she used to dread going to work, not because she hated the job, but because it meant missing her boxing classes. They were her passion, but the only weekday classes in her area started at 4 p.m., so she never got to go. Then one day, she decided enough was enough. She talked to her boss, explained how important these classes were to her, and asked if she could shift her hours. And yeah, to her surprise, her boss was completely fine with it as long as it didn't hurt her performance. Now her schedule is pretty flexible. She works a 7 to 3 and she makes every boxing class, and she's actually doing better at work because she's happier and more energized. Research shows that we all have these different chronotypes, which is just a fancy way of saying that we each have certain times of the day when we naturally feel most alert and protective. For example, if you have, I don't know, a bear chronotype, which is the most common type, your energy tends to follow the sun with peak performance in the mid-morning and a dip in the afternoon. Or maybe you have a lion chronotype where you have more energy in the early morning and you wind down by evening. For me, I feel like I'm somewhere in between where I have the most creativity and energy at around noon each day. I believe that knowing your chronotype can help you plan your most important tasks during your peak productivity hours rather than just fighting against your natural rhythm. Now I know what you might be thinking. There's no way that my boss would agree to me working my ideal hours. But have you actually asked? So if you do actually ask, here's how you can make it work. First, explain how different hours will make you feel more productive, and that's really what your boss cares about the most. If you get twice as much done in the afternoon, show them how shifting your hours will help the business, not just you. Second, you could maybe ask for a trial run. This way, they can see the results for themselves while feeling comfortable that they can change it back if it's not working for them. And finally, if they say yes, you want to make sure that you actually deliver. Prove that the new schedule helps you get more done and results in better quality work. You see, you don't have to quit your job to fix your hours. You can keep your 9-to-5 career, but maybe you can run it at a 10 to 6 or a 6 to 2 or even an 11 to 7 if that's what works best for you. So right now, for most days as a content creator and money coach, I work a 10 to 6. And I don't know if you already know this, I've been promoting this a lot, but I actually launched my first 102-page book last year, which is an all-in-one guide on how to build financial freedom. And since you guys are my subscribers, I want to say thank you, and I'm actually giving away free copies. So if you want to get your own copy right now, you can check the description down below. Next, let's talk about your work environment. When you get home and tell your friends or family about a frustrating day, are you usually talking about the actual work you do or everything surrounding it? So let's say that you're a project manager at a local tech firm, and lately you've been complaining far more than you've been saying anything good. Are you unhappy about tight deadlines, long meetings, and juggling multiple clients at once? Or are you actually unhappy because you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to take 3 trains to work? Maybe there's a colleague that seems to have it out for you and it makes every day super stressful. Or maybe the office is so noisy that you can't hear yourself think. If it's the second group of problems, then you might not hate your job. You might just hate the environment it's in. And this is something that I believe that you can change without quitting. One of the best decisions I've ever made was working from home full-time. Nowadays, instead of spending an hour to get ready, do my hair, commute, I'm hitting the gym. And I don't know, I believe that this makes me feel that I'm getting more out of life. So take a look at your situation, maybe your commute, your office setup, and the people around you. If one of these is the reason you don't enjoy your 9-to-5, that's actually good news because it's fixable. In a study in Arlington, Virginia, they found out that those who walked or cycled to work were happiest, and those who drove or carpooled were actually least happy. Changing something as simple as your mode of transportation can have a big impact on your 9-to-5 experience. So what can you do? Well, you can try cycling to work, or maybe you can ask to move to a quieter desk, or find out whether you can work remotely every now and then. I really think that there's always a way to make your environment work for you. Something that I see with a lot of people is that, they like their profession, but they don't exactly like the role that they have within it. So take one of my friends as an example. He spent years as a software developer and absolutely loved it. I remember every time I meet up with him, he gets so excited about the problems he was solving, and he talked my ear off about the latest code challenges, even though I had no idea what the heck he was talking about. Then he got promoted to a team lead. And on paper, that sounded great because he got a higher title, more pay, and more influence. But in reality, this meant that instead of writing code, he was now stuck in back-to-back meetings, managing people, and doing admin. Within weeks, I noticed the spark drain from him. He wasn't talking about exciting projects anymore, just how many meetings he had and how little real work he got to do. He even started talking about quitting altogether. Eventually, he realized it wasn't the company or the industry he hated. It was that his role no longer played to his strengths. So what did he do? He actually started upskilling into solutions architecture, which meant that he could still work on the big picture coding decisions, but without managing a big team. And today, that's exactly what he's doing right now. If you can relate to this, maybe what's holding you back is how you've positioned yourself at work. Maybe you're paired with the wrong team lead, or maybe 80% of your day is spent on the parts of your job you dislike the most. Start by identifying what's missing and then shift toward the work that you actually enjoy. This might mean looking for projects that challenge you, negotiating for more autonomy, or learning new skills that move you closer to your ideal role. I really believe that the more your day aligns with your strengths, the less it feels like a grind. Finally, and in my opinion, the biggest reason so many of us dislike the rat race is because we've parked our own dreams to make room for our 9-to-5s. You see, I've always wanted to create something for my own, but it felt impossible while I was wrapped up in my daily teaching job. I would wake up every day and I felt like I spent spent my entire day building someone else's vision and come home too drained to work on my own. And over time, I don't know, I felt like I kind of resented or I was like really burned out with my job. The turning point came when I realized my frustration wasn't with my 9 to 5. It was with the fact that I'd stopped making progress on my own personal goals. I felt like I wanted to become more than a classroom teacher and help serve a larger community. So when I realized this is when I tried something called the Lotto test. So something that you can do right now is you can ask yourself, if money weren't a concern at all, what would you spend your days doing? And for me, of course, the answer was to teach other people how to understand money, everything from making their first investment to choosing great stocks and index funds. That led me to start creating educational content online like Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube, and eventually the free investing class that you see linked down below. I felt like once I made space for my dream, my attitude toward my 9 to 5 shifted completely, and later it even gave me more confidence to go full time on my own projects. So maybe you can take some time tonight and do the Lotto test yourself. What's your answer? Do you finally want to start traveling? Then great, start learning how to work remotely so you can do it. Would you like to spend more time gaming? Then perfect, join an amateur league or learn how to stream. I know there are a lot of people out there and a couple of my friends right now who just got the newest Nintendo Switch 2. Do you want to write a book or a novel? Then awesome, block out one evening a week to chip away at your first draft. My really good friend Rose actually just came out with her book and I'm so proud of her. No matter what it is, don't ignore it because you're going to be amazed at how much more energizing your 9 to 5 feels when your dreams aren't on pause. And if you're worried about how your boss might react, you can point out that even Forbes says pursuing your passions outside of work can make you a better employee, sharpening your skills and boosting your creativity. And if you want to start investing and you're tired of Googling how to invest, my beginner's investing class is the answer. I'll go over what accounts to open, how much to invest based on your age, and what to invest in that helped me become a millionaire myself. And it's kind of crazy because over 50,000 people have already joined my class and you can sign up to see why. I'll leave the link here or down below and I hope to see you in class.